Walter and Evelyn Hale, an elegant, wealthy black couple whose generosity shaped Atlanta's heart, were the kind of people everyone admired, their lives built on faith, education, and community. But in the city's shadows, the Mafia saw them differently, obstacles standing in the way of power. To Enzo Moretti's men, the Hales looked soft, too old, too gentle to fight back. Their abduction was ruthless, their murder a statement carved in blood to remind the city who truly ruled its streets. But what the Mafia didn't know was that their only son, Marcus Hale, wasn't just a soldier. He was a former Delta Force commander. And when they took his parents, they declared war on the wrong man. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the community center's ballroom. Men in suits and women in evening dresses moved between round tables draped in white cloth. The sound of clinking glasses mixed with soft jazz and quiet conversation. At the front of the room, Evelyn Hale stood tall and elegant in her deep purple dress, her silver hair swept up in a classic style. Her husband, Walter, distinguished in his tailored black suit, kept his hand at the small of her back as they greeted their guests. "Your generosity tonight will help 10 more students attend college next fall," Evelyn said, her voice carrying the weight of decades spent in classrooms. "These children are our future. We must protect their dreams from those who'd rather build luxury condos than community." A few guests shifted uncomfortably at her directness, but most nodded in agreement. In the back of the room, Marcus Hale tugged at his tie, feeling out of place in the suit he'd bought just for tonight. His muscles tensed from years of combat training, making the formal wear feel like a costume. He watched his mother work the room with the same grace she'd shown at church socials when he was a boy. "You could go talk to them, you know." The voice beside him belonged to Tanya Lyle. The civil rights attorney's dark eyes held a mixture of warmth and challenge. "They miss you, Marcus, more than their pride lets them admit." Marcus's jaw tightened. "It's been 5 years, Tanya. Some things aren't easily fixed. And some things are harder the longer you wait," she countered, touching his arm gently. "They're not getting any younger. Neither is your chance to make things right." Up on the balcony overlooking the main floor, a man in an expensive Italian suit leaned against the railing. Luca Marconi's cold eyes tracked the elderly couple's movements while his manicured fingers worked his phone's camera. Click, click. The photos would please his boss, Enzo Moretti. The old couple's stubbornness was becoming expensive. Walter took the microphone next, his deep voice steady despite his age. "When my father came to Atlanta, he couldn't own property in most neighborhoods. Now our family helps others build generational wealth through home ownership. We won't let anyone push us out. Not developers, not corporations, not anyone who'd rather see profit than progress." The crowd applauded. Marcus noticed how his father's hand trembled slightly on the microphone, a sign of age the proud man tried to hide. Their last argument echoed in his mind. "Violence solves nothing, son. Your mother and I taught you better than that." As the evening wound down, Marcus found himself moving toward his parents. Walter saw him first, his stern expression softening just slightly. "You clean up nice, son." "Thanks, Dad." Marcus cleared his throat. "Look, I was thinking maybe we could talk. Tomorrow?" Evelyn touched her son's cheek, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "We'd like that very much." "We can disagree about methods," Walter added, "but family should stick together. Especially now, with Moretti's people getting more aggressive about buying up the block." Marcus's tactical mind kicked in. "Let me help. I have experience with men like that." "No." Walter's voice was firm. "We fight our battles with integrity, not violence." That's how we've always done it. That's how we'll continue." Outside, the spring night had turned cool. Marcus walked his parents to their car, his training making him scan the street automatically. The silver Mercedes started smoothly, and Evelyn rolled down her window. "Tomorrow, then? For dinner?" "I'll be there," Marcus promised, forcing a smile. "Drive safe." Across the street, a black SUV sat in the shadows, engine idling. Inside, Luca Marconi lit a cigarette, the flame briefly illuminating his sharp features. Smoke curled from his lips as he watched the Mercedes pull away. "Tomorrow won't come for them," he muttered, flicking ash onto the leather seat. The city hummed around them. Traffic on nearby streets, music from bars, the distant wail of a siren. Marcus stood on the sidewalk until his parents' taillights disappeared around the corner. For a moment, he felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. Then he turned and walked to his own car, unaware that the black SUV was now pulling away from the curb, following the same path his parents had taken. The community center's lights dimmed behind him as staff began cleaning up after the gala. The jazz band packed their instruments. Tanya gathered her papers, thinking about Marcus and his parents, hoping they'd find their way back to each other. In the parking lot, the last few guests called their good nights, their voices carrying on the gentle spring breeze. Atlanta settled into its nighttime rhythm, streetlights casting pools of yellow light on empty sidewalks. The Mercedes carrying Walter and Evelyn Hale made its way through familiar streets toward home, while somewhere in the darkness, a black SUV kept pace, waiting for the right moment. The next morning dawned crisp and clear over Atlanta. Sunlight streamed through the Hales' kitchen windows, catching on the crystal fruit bowl Evelyn had received for their 40th anniversary. She hummed softly while scrambling eggs, the familiar rhythm of breakfast preparation bringing comfort after a restless night. Walter sat at the kitchen island in his reading glasses, newspaper spread before him. The coffee maker gurgled in the background. Their housekeeper, Maria, moved quietly through the house, dusting the family photos that lined the hallway. "I hope Marcus really comes today," Evelyn said, adding a pinch of salt to the eggs. "I'll make his favorite cornbread." Walter looked up from his paper. "If he says he'll be here, he'll be here." Military precision, remember? The house phone rang, its sharp trill cutting through the peaceful morning. Walter reached for it, checking the caller ID with a frown. Unknown number. "Mr. Hale." The voice was smooth, practiced. "I'm calling on behalf of Mr. Moretti's development group. We'd like to offer you one final opportunity to sell your properties at triple market value." Walter's knuckles whitened around the phone. "Listen carefully. I don't care what Moretti offers. Those buildings house families who've lived there for generations. We're not selling. Not now, not ever. Sir, please consider. We're done here." Walter slammed the phone down, making the crystal fruit bowl rattle. Evelyn touched his shoulder. "Everything all right?" Before he could answer, the security system chimed. 3 black SUVs had pulled up to their gate. Through the kitchen window, they watched men in tactical gear pour out of the vehicles. "Call Marcus," Walter said quickly, moving toward his study. Then 911, but there wasn't time. Glass shattered in multiple rooms, synchronized entry points. Heavy boots thundered across hardwood floors. Maria screamed from the hallway as masked men rushed past her. Luca Marconi strode through the front door, his designer suit incongruous with his tactical vest. 2 men grabbed Walter as he emerged from his study, shoving him face first against the wall. In the kitchen, another intruder yanked Evelyn away from the stove, eggs still sizzling. "Mrs. Hale," Luca said, walking into the kitchen. His voice carried a mocking politeness. "I heard your lovely speech last night about community. Very touching. But your money can't buy mercy today." Evelyn drew herself up, dignity intact despite the rough hands holding her. We don't need mercy from thugs." She spat in his face. The crack of Luca's backhand echoed through the kitchen. Walter struggled against his captors. "Don't you touch her!" Luca wiped his face with a monogrammed handkerchief. "Zip-tie them. Hoods on. Check his study for the ledger." They bound the couple's hands behind their backs with plastic restraints. Black hoods went over their heads. Walter could hear Evelyn's controlled breathing nearby. She was scared but refusing to show it. "The study's clear," a man reported. "No ledger." "Then we do this the hard way." Luca's phone buzzed. He answered it on speaker. "Is it done?" Enzo Moretti's voice filled the kitchen. "Got them both. No ledger yet. No witnesses, Luca. Find that ledger, or it's their lives. Make it clean." Maria huddled in the corner, crying softly as they dragged the Hales out. Through her tears, she watched the SUVs pull away, carrying her employers of 15 years into the morning sunshine. 20 minutes later, Marcus pulled up to his parents' house, 2 coffee cups in a carrier, and guilt weighing heavy in his chest. He'd rehearsed his apology all morning, for the fight years ago, for staying away so long, for letting pride overcome family. The front door stood open. His training kicked in instantly. He set the coffee down, drew the concealed pistol from his ankle holster, and moved toward the house in a combat stance. Glass crunched under his boots. The foyer showed signs of a coordinated breach. Multiple entry points, professional work. "Mom? Dad?" His voice carried through the house as he cleared rooms methodically. The kitchen was a mess. Eggs burned black in the pan, a chair overturned, his father's reading glasses broken on the floor. He found Maria in the living room, still shaking. "Mr. Marcus! They took them! Men in masks! They hurt Mrs. Evelyn when she fought back." Marcus's jaw clenched. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911, his voice steady, despite the rage building inside him. While reporting the kidnapping, he studied the tire tracks in the driveway. 3 vehicles, professional drivers based on the acceleration marks. This was no random home invasion. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Through the front window, Marcus watched a police cruiser pull up, followed by an unmarked car. Detective Aaron Pike stepped out, his suit pressed, his manner calm. Too calm for the situation. "Mr. Hale," Pike said, extending his hand as he entered, "we'll handle this. These things usually resolve quickly when ransoms are involved." Marcus stared at the detective's outstretched hand, but didn't take it. He'd seen enough combat to recognize when something wasn't right. Pike's eyes were too controlled, his composure too perfect for a fresh kidnapping scene. Squad cars filled the circular driveway. Uniformed officers began taping off the scene. Pike pulled out a notebook, his pen hovering over the page. "Now, if you'll tell me exactly what you saw when you arrived." The living room of the Hale mansion felt hollow in the evening darkness. Marcus sat rigid on the edge of his father's leather armchair, watching Detective Pike flip through his notepad with calculated slowness. Crime scene techs had finished hours ago, leaving behind fingerprint dust and evidence markers like neon wounds across the house. "Let's go through this again," Pike said, his pen tapping against paper. "Can you think of anyone who might want to harm your parents? Business rivals? Disgruntled employees?" Marcus studied Pike's face in the dim light. The detective's expression remained neutral, professional, too professional. His questions felt rehearsed, his concern a thin veneer. "They're respected business owners who fund scholarships and support local families," Marcus replied, keeping his voice level. "The only enemies they have are developers trying to force them out." Pike's pen stopped tapping. "Developers? Any names?" "Moretti's group has been pressuring them to sell." "Enzo Moretti?" Pike wrote something down, his handwriting deliberately slow. "The real estate investor? He's a prominent businessman, Mr. Hale. That's a serious allegation. The front door burst open. Tanya Lyle strode in, her heels clicking sharply against hardwood. Her lawyer's briefcase swung at her side, and fury blazed in her eyes. 8 hours, she snapped at Pike. They've been missing 8 hours, and you're still just taking notes? Where's the tactical team? The ransom negotiator? Pike closed his notepad with practiced calm. Ms. Lyle, we're conducting a thorough investigation. I have teams working through the night. We'll find them. Like you found the Thompson family last month? Tanya's voice cut like steel. 3 days later, case mysteriously closed? That was a different situation. Pike stood, straightening his tie. Mr. Hale, we'll have officers watching the house. Try to get some rest. Marcus watched Pike leave through the front door, noting how the detective's shoulders never tensed despite Tanya's accusations. Years of combat had taught Marcus to read people. Pike's relaxed posture spoke volumes. He's lying, Marcus said once Pike's car pulled away. He's not looking for them at all. Tanya set her briefcase down. The whole department's compromised. 3 families pushed out last month alone, all after refusing to sell to Moretti's development group. Police ruled them personal matters and closed the files. Marcus moved to his father's study, flicking on the desk lamp. Help me search. Dad keeps everything documented. They combed through Walter's files for hours. Tax records, property deeds, letters from tenants. Walter Hale ran his business with military precision. In the bottom drawer, behind a false panel Marcus remembered from childhood, they found a USB drive labeled simply, Community Ledger. Dad's backup security, Marcus explained, plugging it into the computer. He taught me this hiding spot when I was 10. The drive was encrypted. Tanya pulled up a chair, her legal expertise with financial documents proving crucial as they worked through the protection. At midnight, the screen filled with spreadsheets and bank transfers. Look at this, Tanya pointed. Wire transfers from 6 different city officials, all to MR Holdings. That's Moretti's shell company. He's been buying votes to force property seizures. Marcus scrolled through the documents. Dad was building a case. Names, dates, account numbers, everything needed to expose the whole network. Marcus, Tanya grabbed his arm. This is dangerous evidence. If Moretti knew your father had this, then we know why they were taken. Marcus stood, checking his weapon. And we know they're running out of time. Rain started falling as Marcus drove across Atlanta to his parents' church. St. Michael's stood dark except for the perpetual sanctuary lamp. Father Bell was locking up when Marcus approached. "Marcus, my boy." The old priest's face creased with worry. "I've been praying for them since I heard. Have they been here, Father? Maybe seeking sanctuary?" Father Bell shook his head. "No, but earlier, around noon, I saw 3 black vans heading toward the industrial district. Caught my attention because they were driving so fast past the school." Marcus's pulse quickened. "Which direction exactly?" "Down Mason Street, toward those old storage lots." Father Bell touched Marcus's shoulder. "Whatever you're thinking of doing, remember, justice without mercy destroys the soul seeking it. Right now, I just need to find them alive." The rain fell harder as Marcus parked his truck near the abandoned storage facility. Through binoculars, he watched the seemingly empty lot. Most units were rusted shut, but one had fresh tire tracks leading to it despite the condemned notice on the fence. A security light flickered, briefly illuminating the wet pavement. Marcus counted 3 cameras hidden in strategic spots, too new for an abandoned lot. His tactical training noted multiple sight lines, potential cover positions. Blood pounded in his ears as he checked his weapon one final time. The midnight rain drummed against his truck's roof, covering any sound he might make. He could feel time slipping away with each drop. Drawing his gun, Marcus opened the truck door. The familiar weight of his pistol steadied his hand as raindrops pelted his face. He moved toward the storage lot's fence, becoming one with the shadows. Marcus moved through the rain-slicked storage yard like a ghost, his boots silent on wet concrete. Security lights cast shifting shadows across rusted containers and weather-beaten warehouses. Every few seconds, thunder rolled overhead, masking his approach. Through the drumming rain, voices carried from a corrugated metal building at the far end of the lot. Marcus pressed against a container, listening. Harsh words echoed inside, punctuated by the sound of something heavy being dragged. "The old man won't crack," a voice growled. "Neither of them will talk." "Luca said midnight's the deadline," another man replied, panic edging his tone. "We gotta finish it." Marcus's jaw tightened. He checked his watch, 11:47 p.m. Drawing his gun, he moved forward, using the shadows between security lights as cover. A guard stood smoking beneath an overhang, shoulders hunched against the rain. Marcus approached from behind, one hand reaching out. The guard never saw him coming. In seconds, the man was unconscious, zip-tied, and hidden behind a dumpster. Marcus took his radio and security card. 2 more guards patrolled the perimeter. Marcus tracked their movements, timing their routes. When thunder crashed again, he struck. The first guard went down with a precise chokehold. The second turned at the sound, but Marcus was already there, driving his elbow into the man's temple. The warehouse loomed ahead, its metal walls gleaming with rain. Through a gap in the doors, fluorescent light spilled onto wet pavement. Marcus crouched low, peering inside. His heart stopped. His parents knelt on the concrete floor, hands bound behind their backs. Walter's face was bruised, but his eyes burned with defiance. Evelyn sat straight-backed despite her bonds, dignity unbroken. Luca paced before them, a pistol dangling from his hand. "Last chance," Luca snarled, grabbing Walter's collar. "Where's the ledger? Where are the documents?" Walter looked up at him. "My father built this neighborhood when no bank would loan to black businesses. You think I'd let thugs like you destroy that legacy?" Luca backhanded him. "Your legacy?" He laughed. "Your legacy dies tonight. Our names will mean something when yours are forgotten." Evelyn's voice rang out, clear and strong despite her fear. Marcus moved. But before he could reach the door, Luca spun toward Walter, rage twisting his face. The gunshot cracked like lightning. Walter slumped forward. Evelyn screamed. Marcus burst through the door, gun raised. Luca turned, shoving Evelyn roughly to the floor. Her eyes found Marcus's face. "Marcus," she whispered. The second shot echoed off metal walls. Luca was already running, disappearing through a rear exit as Marcus fired. His bullet caught Luca's shoulder, drawing blood, but didn't stop him. A radio crackled nearby, abandoned by one of the guards. Enzo's smooth voice filled the warehouse. "Clean it up. Make sure no one traces it." The rain drummed on the roof as Marcus knelt beside his parents. Blood spread across the concrete, mixing with puddles from his wet clothes. With trembling hands, he untied their bonds, gathering them close. Walter's body was already growing cold. Evelyn's hand, still warm, fell limply from Marcus's grip. Her wedding ring caught the harsh fluorescent light, the same ring she'd worn for 40 years, through every hardship and triumph. "I'm sorry," Marcus whispered, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry I wasn't here sooner, that I stayed away so long." Thunder rolled outside, drowning out his words. He held them, rocking slightly, remembering Sunday dinners and bedtime stories, stern lectures and proud smiles. All the moments he'd taken for granted, now forever lost. "You won't die in vain," he vowed, his words barely audible above the storm. "Everything you built, everything you protected, I'll defend it, and I'll make them pay." Time slipped away as Marcus knelt there, his tactical training warring with his grief. He knew he should move, should gather evidence, should pursue Luca, but leaving meant accepting they were gone, meant facing a world without their strength and wisdom. Finally, distant sirens pierced the rainfall. Marcus gently laid his parents down, arranging them with care. He wiped the blood from Evelyn's face, straightened Walter's collar one last time. The sirens grew closer. Marcus stood, rain from his clothes pooling around his feet. Dawn's first gray light filtered through the warehouse windows, painting everything in pale shadows. He looked down at his hands, red with his parents' blood. The rain streaming from the roof slowly washed them clean, drop by drop. Metal doors creaked in the wind. Emergency lights flashed on wet pavement outside. Marcus took one last look at his parents, their faces peaceful despite everything. Then he melted into the shadows as police cars pulled into the storage yard, their sirens splitting the dawn. Morning sunlight streamed through grimy diner windows, casting long shadows across the cracked vinyl booth where Marcus sat. His coffee had gone cold, untouched. Across from him, Tanya Lyle leaned forward, her legal pad covered in rapid notes as Marcus finished describing the warehouse scene. "My God, Marcus!" Tanya's voice was barely above a whisper. "We need to take this to the FBI. Agent Reeves in the Atlanta field office. She's been building a case against organized crime. She's clean." Marcus shook his head, his expression hard. "They killed my parents in a police-controlled storage facility, Tanya. The cops were nowhere near that lot until after it was over. Someone made sure of that." "You can't handle this alone," she pressed. "This is bigger than revenge. Your parents had evidence of this." Marcus slid a tablet across the table. The decrypted files from Walter's USB drive filled the screen. Spreadsheets, property transfers, shell company records. Moretti's been buying up properties through dummy corporations, laundering money through construction projects. The ledger proves it. Dad was tracking everything. Tanya scrolled through the documents, her eyes widening. These signatures. Half the zoning board is implicated. Building inspectors, precinct captains. She looked up sharply. "Marcus, this is why they killed them. This could bring down Moretti's entire operation. And everyone he's bought," Marcus added, "including cops we don't know about yet." A waitress approached. They fell silent until she refilled their cups and moved away. "I need your help, Tanya," Marcus said quietly. "But not with the FBI. Not yet. I need you to work the legal angle. Property records, permit applications, anything that proves these connections. Build the case while I—" He paused. "While you what?" Tanya's voice held warning. "Become a vigilante? While I handle the other side." Marcus met her gaze steadily. "You know what they'll do with this evidence if we take it to the wrong people. It'll disappear, just like my parents." Tanya stared into her coffee. Years of fighting corrupt systems had taught her hard lessons about institutional justice. Finally, she nodded. "I'll help. But promise me this stays about evidence and exposure, not just revenge." "It's about justice," Marcus said. "The kind the courts can't always deliver." He left cash on the table and stood. Tanya caught his arm. "Be careful. Moretti didn't build his empire by being careless with threats." Marcus squeezed her hand once, then walked out into the morning light. By sunset, Marcus's safe house hummed with tactical energy. Ghost arrived first, stepping out of a weathered pickup truck with his signature rifle case. The former sniper moved with fluid grace despite his years, his gray eyes missing nothing as he surveyed the property. "Still living off the grid, I see," Ghost commented, noting the solar panels and security cameras. "Old habits," Marcus replied, embracing his friend. Sarge showed up an hour later in a loaded-down SUV. The demolitions expert's broad shoulders filled the doorway as he entered, carrying cases of gear. His usual grin was replaced by grim focus when Marcus explained the situation. They transformed the living room into an operations center. Maps covered one wall, Atlanta's industrial districts, known properties linked to Moretti, surveillance photos of Luca's usual haunts. Weapons and equipment lined a folding table. Night vision goggles, suppressed rifles, communications gear, medical supplies. Luca's crew runs protection out of these 3 zones, Ghost said, marking locations. He's got a dozen regulars, ex-military mostly. Sloppy, but dangerous. Sarge examined satellite images on a laptop. Loading docks here and here would make good observation posts. I can wire them with motion sensors, give us early warning if they move product. Marcus studied incident reports he'd pulled from police databases. Detective Pike requested lead on my parents' case within hours of the bodies being found. He's controlling information flow, redirecting resources. Pike's been on Moretti's payroll for years, Ghost confirmed. We ran into him on that cartel job in 19. He buried evidence, steered investigations away from Moretti's people. Then he's part of the target list, Marcus said flatly. We find Luca. We make him give up Pike's connection. Pike leads us to Moretti's inner circle. They spent hours planning infiltration routes, mapping security patterns, identifying choke points. This wasn't revenge. It was a military operation. Each man fell into familiar roles. Ghost handling reconnaissance, Sarge preparing equipment, Marcus coordinating strategy. Near midnight, Marcus stood before the evidence wall. Photos and documents connected with red string showed the web of corruption spreading from Moretti through Atlanta's power structure. At the center hung a surveillance photo of Luca leaving an upscale restaurant, his face twisted in a cruel smile. Marcus drew a red circle around Luca's image with a marker. The circle looked like a sniper's scope, like a target, like a promise. We start with him, Marcus said, his voice cold and certain. Ghost and Sarge stood beside him, their shadows merging on the wall. Marcus checked his weapon, the familiar weight grounding him. Outside, Atlanta's lights glittered like stars fallen to earth. Somewhere in that galaxy of neon and shadow, Luca waited, unaware that his hunters were coming. Marcus loaded his rifle, the metallic click echoing in the quiet room. Night settled over the city like a shroud. Moonlight glinted off industrial metal as Marcus crouched behind a stack of shipping containers. Through his night vision goggles, the warehouse glowed in shades of green. 2 armed guards patrolled the perimeter, sloppy, predictable patterns. They carried themselves like thugs, not soldiers. 4 heat signatures by the loading dock. Ghost's voice crackled in Marcus's earpiece. He was positioned on a nearby rooftop with his rifle. 2 more inside the office. Security cameras? Marcus whispered. Disabled, Sarge confirmed from his position. Loops running. They're blind for the next 30 minutes. Marcus watched the guards complete another circuit. Moving in. Ghost, watch my 6. He slipped from shadow to shadow, years of Delta Force training making him nearly invisible in the darkness. The first guard never saw him coming. Marcus wrapped an arm around the man's throat, applying precise pressure to the carotid artery. Within seconds, the guard slumped unconscious. Marcus zip-tied his hands and feet, then dragged him behind a dumpster. The second guard was lighting a cigarette when Marcus struck. A quick sweep of the legs, an elbow to the temple, another quiet takedown. Marcus secured him next to his partner. Dock teams rotating inside, Ghost reported. Side entrance is clear. Marcus moved to the metal door, Sarge joining him with a small toolkit. The lock took seconds to pick. They entered on silent feet, keeping to the edges where the concrete wouldn't echo their steps. The warehouse interior was a maze of crates and pallets. Voices drifted from an office overlooking the floor, Luca's lieutenants discussing shipment schedules. Marcus recognized one voice, Tony Vescovi, Luca's second in command. Position 1 and 3, Marcus hand-signaled to Sarge, indicating opposite approaches to the office stairs. They split up, working their way through the warehouse. A guard emerged from behind a forklift. Marcus grabbed him, clamping a hand over his mouth while applying a sleeper hold. The guard's eyes rolled back as he lost consciousness. "Clear left," Sarge whispered. "Clear right," Marcus responded. Moving up. They ascended the metal stairs in perfect sync, boots silent on the grating. Through the office window, Marcus could see Vescovi bent over paperwork, another man standing nearby. Two more guards lounged against the wall, weapons slung carelessly across their chests. Marcus held up 3 fingers, counting down. At 0, they burst through both doors simultaneously. The fight was brutally efficient. Marcus swept the legs of the nearest guard, while Sarge took down the other with a precise strike to the throat. Vescovi reached for a pistol, but Marcus was faster, driving his knee into the man's solar plexus. The fourth man raised his hands in surrender. "Smart choice," Marcus growled, securing Vescovi to his office chair with zip ties. The other men were quickly restrained. "You're dead," Vescovi spat. "You don't know what you're walking into." Marcus backhanded him hard enough to split his lip. "The Ledger courier." "Where's the meeting?" "What courier?" Blood trickled down Vescovi's chin. Marcus pressed the barrel of his suppressed pistol against Vescovi's kneecap. "Tomorrow's handoff. Location and time. Go to hell." Vescovi's words cut off in a scream as Marcus squeezed the trigger, the suppressed shot punching through muscle just beside his knee. "Next one shatters the joint," Marcus said coldly. "Location. Riverfront," Vescovi gasped. "Old Freeman Depot, noon tomorrow. Luca's meeting him personally." Why did Moretti order the hit on the Hales? The old man's charity work, Vescovi panted through the pain. He was buying properties we'd marked for development, turning them into community centers. Started asking questions about where our construction money came from. The ledger proved it was laundering. Names, dates, shell companies. Moretti couldn't let that surface. Marcus leaned in close, his voice deadly quiet. "My mother. Did she suffer?" Fear flickered in Vescovi's eyes. It was quick. Luca wanted to drag it out but had orders to finish clean. Sarge placed a laptop on the desk, webcam light blinking. "Recordings live. Repeat everything you just told me," Marcus ordered. "All of it." 10 minutes later, they had a full confession recorded. Marcus encrypted the file and sent it to Tanya's secure server. Ammunition for building the legal case. "Please," Vescovi begged as they prepared to leave. "Moretti will kill me for talking. Should have thought of that before helping murder innocent people." Marcus zip-tied him more securely to the chair, making sure the restraints would hold for hours. "Someone will find you eventually." "Incoming vehicles," Ghost's urgent voice came through the radio. Multiple headlights on the access road, too organized to be random. Marcus moved to the window. A line of black SUVs was approaching the warehouse, their headlights cutting through the darkness. "Time to move," he ordered. "Ghost, cover our exit." "Sarge, prep the diversion." They headed for the back stairs, leaving Vescovi and his men bound and gagged in the office above. Whatever was coming, they needed to be gone before those vehicles arrived. Through the warehouse's rear exit, Marcus and his team emerged into the loading yard. Floodlights suddenly blazed to life, bathing the area in harsh white light. The familiar whoop of police sirens filled the air as unmarked cars boxed them in from 3 sides. Detective Pike stepped out of the lead vehicle, his service weapon held with casual confidence. His face showed no tension, just a practiced calm that made Marcus's skin crawl. "Marcus Hale," Pike called out, his voice carrying across the yard. "You're under arrest for obstruction of justice and homicide. Put down your weapons." Marcus's jaw tightened. The pieces clicked into place. Pike's lackadaisical investigation, his controlled handling of evidence, his insistence on keeping Marcus away from the case. The detective wasn't just corrupt. He was Moretti's inside man. "Homicide?" Marcus challenged, keeping his rifle lowered but ready. "The only killers here are the ones you're protecting, Detective. I have shell casings from your weapon at your parents' murder scene," Pike replied smoothly. "Planted evidence is still evidence, Marcus. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Ghost's voice came low through the radio. "I've got an angle on 3 of them. Say the word." "Hold," Marcus muttered. He counted 8 officers besides Pike, all with weapons trained on them. Too many for a clean break. "Sarge, diversion ready. East side, on your mark." Pike took a step forward, his false sympathy now tinged with steel. "Your parents chose pride over survival, Marcus. Don't make their mistake." The mention of his parents ignited something cold and deadly in Marcus's chest. "Now!" he commanded. Multiple things happened at once. Sarge triggered remote charges on a stack of empty drums, sending them crashing across the yard in a thunderous cascade. Ghost's rifle cracked 3 times from his elevated position, taking out lights. Marcus dove behind a concrete barrier as the night erupted in gunfire. "Contact rear!" Sarge shouted. More vehicles were arriving, Luca's men, right on schedule. Marcus pulled a smoke grenade from his vest and hurled it toward Pike's position. Dense gray smoke billowed across the yard. He moved through it like a ghost, years of combat training taking over. 2 officers appeared in front of him. He dropped one with a strike to the throat, swept the legs from under the second. A scream of pain cut through the chaos. "Ghost is hit," Sarge reported. "Left leg, through and through." Marcus changed direction, heading toward his friend's position. Pike's voice rang out, ordering his men to hold their fire. He wanted Marcus alive. That hesitation was all Marcus needed. He found Ghost behind an electrical transformer, blood soaking his pant leg. "Can you move?" "Like a 3-legged dog," Ghost grimaced. "But yeah." Marcus got Ghost's arm over his shoulder. Sarge appeared beside them, laying down covering fire as they retreated toward their exfil route. Behind them, new voices joined the fray, Luca's distinctive accent cutting through the din. They made it to their backup vehicle, a nondescript van parked 2 blocks away. As Sarge peeled away from the curb, Marcus's phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You're good, soldier," Luca's voice oozed through the speaker. "But you're alone now. No badge will help you. No law will protect you. Should have left town when you had the chance." "I'm going to find you," Marcus promised quietly. Luca laughed. "Like you found your parents? Check the news tomorrow. Your friend Vescovi had an unfortunate accident while resisting arrest. Such a shame. Apparently he shot himself. Twice. In the back of the head." The line went dead. Marcus closed his eyes briefly, guilt twisting in his gut. Another death he was responsible for. 20 minutes later, they were at the safe house, a converted industrial loft Marcus had prepared years ago. He cleaned and bandaged Ghost's leg wound while Sarge set up a security perimeter. "Through and through," Marcus confirmed, tightening the bandage. "You're lucky." "Doesn't feel lucky," Ghost grunted. Pike and Luca working together. That's why they were always 1 step ahead. Marcus looked down at his hands, still stained with Ghost's blood. The sight reminded him of kneeling beside his parents in that warehouse. He'd failed to protect them. He wouldn't fail again. "They're coordinating," he said, wiping his hands clean. "Pike feeds Luca police intel. Luca handles the wet work. The ledger would expose them both." "And tomorrow's handoff?" Sarge asked from his position by the window. "It's a trap," Marcus replied. "They're expecting us to hit the depot. That's why Pike showed up tonight, to spook us, make us sloppy." Ghost shifted, wincing. "So we don't show?" "No." Marcus stood, moving to the table where their weapons lay. "We show, but we don't play by their rules anymore." He began field stripping his rifle, each movement precise and deliberate. "Tomorrow, we end this." In the distance, police sirens wailed through the Atlanta night. Marcus continued his weapons maintenance, his movements mechanical, his mind already mapping out tomorrow's assault. Pike and Luca thought they had him cornered. They were about to learn why that was a fatal mistake. A thick blanket of fog rolled off the Chattahoochee River, shrouding the riverfront depot in ghostly gray. Marcus crouched behind a stack of shipping containers, checking his watch. 4:47 a.m. First light was still an hour away. "East side's wired," Sarge's voice crackled through his earpiece. "Motion sensors and pressure plates all hot." Marcus touched his throat mic. "Copy. West side secured. How's Ghost?" "Monitoring cameras from the van. Says Luca's convoy just passed the bridge checkpoint." Moving like a shadow, Marcus threaded between the towering metal containers. The maze of steel boxes created perfect killing corridors, channels he'd spent hours memorizing. Each intersection was now rigged with silent alarms, each corner covered by carefully placed remote charges. He paused at a junction, attaching the last proximity sensor. Years of Delta Force operations had taught him patience. The fog would work in their favor, limiting visibility to less than 30 feet. In these conditions, Luca's numerical advantage meant nothing. 3 vehicles approaching the main gate, Ghost reported. 2 SUVs, 1 armored van. "I count 10 plus, Luca." Marcus touched the worn grip of his suppressed MP5. "Remember, we need him alive long enough to talk." "Copy that," Sarge replied. "Though after what he did to your folks—" "Focus," Marcus cut him off. The past was a luxury he couldn't afford right now. The quiet rumble of engines carried through the mist. Headlights swept across wet concrete as the vehicles entered the depot. Marcus counted footsteps, multiple teams spreading out in a standard search pattern. Amateur work. They were looking up and out, not checking the shadows at their feet. A harsh voice carried through the fog. "Luca, spread out! Find this son of a bitch before he—" Marcus squeezed the detonator. 3 precisely placed charges erupted simultaneously, their concussive force amplified by the shipping containers. The explosions weren't meant to kill, just disorient and separate. Shouts of confusion filled the air. Marcus moved. The first guard rounded a corner, still blinking from the blast. A quick strike to the throat, followed by an arm lock that ended with a savage break. The man dropped without a sound. 2 more appeared, weapons raised. Marcus flowed between them like water. An elbow crushed a larynx. A knee shattered a kneecap. His hands found vital points with surgical precision, each movement economical and brutal. "Contact!" someone screamed. Gunfire erupted, bullets sparking off metal. Marcus was already gone, sliding between containers as his enemies shot at shadows. "They're splitting up," Ghost updated. 4 heading east, 3 west. Luca's moving toward the water with 2 guards. Marcus triggered another charge. The blast sent a stack of empty containers crashing down, cutting off the eastern group. Sarge's rifle cracked twice. 2 clean shots, 2 bodies down. A guard came running through the fog, straight at Marcus. He caught the man's gun arm, twisted, and drove him face first into a container wall. The impact left a bloody smear on the metal. "The ledger," Luca's voice echoed. "Bring me the damn ledger." Marcus moved toward the sound, every sense alert. Another guard appeared, this one better trained. They exchanged blows in the narrow space between containers. Marcus took a hard hit to the ribs, but countered with a savage knee strike. The guard dropped, clutching his shattered collarbone. 5 down, Sarge reported. "East group is pinned down. Want me to finish them?" "Negative. Maintain containment. Luca's mine." The fog was starting to thin, as Marcus approached the waterfront. Luca's remaining guards were getting desperate, firing wildly at any movement. A burst of gunfire forced Marcus into cover. He drew his knife and waited. Footsteps approached. Rushed. Clumsy. The guard never saw the blade that opened his femoral artery. "Boss, we need to go!" The last guard's panicked voice carried clearly. "This guy's not human!" "Shut up!" Luca snarled. "He's one man. One!" Marcus's throw sent the guard's body tumbling past Luca, throat crushed by a precisely aimed steel rod. Luca spun, firing his pistol, but Marcus was already moving. He slapped the gun aside and drove his knee into Luca's solar plexus. They crashed together onto the wet pier boards. Luca fought like a cornered animal, all desperate strength and fury. He landed a solid punch to Marcus's jaw, then tried to gouge his eyes. Marcus answered with methodical violence, short, brutal strikes that slowly dismantled Luca's defenses. A headbutt broke Luca's nose. An elbow dislocated his shoulder. Each blow was measured, each injury calculated to cause maximum pain with minimal risk of death. Finally, Marcus pinned him against a mooring post at the pier's edge. Dawn was breaking over the river, burning away the last wisps of fog. Below them, dark water lapped at the pilings. Luca spat blood and smiled, his teeth crimson. "You think killing me will end it?" he sneered, even as Marcus's grip tightened around his throat. The flash grenade hit the pier with a metallic ping. Marcus's combat instincts kicked in. He turned away, but not fast enough. The world exploded into searing white. His ears rang as Luca's boot caught him in the chest, sending him staggering. "Not so perfect now, soldier," Luca taunted. Marcus blinked furiously, trying to clear his vision. Shapes blurred and doubled. He barely deflected Luca's wild knife slash, feeling the blade nick his forearm. Blood trickled down his sleeve. Luca pressed his advantage, launching a flurry of strikes. Marcus gave ground, relying on muscle memory and sound to defend himself. A punch grazed his jaw. Another knife thrust came dangerously close to his throat. "Your mother died crying," Luca spat. "Begging like a—" Marcus's vision snapped back just enough. He caught Luca's knife hand and twisted savagely. Bones crunched. The blade clattered onto the pier. Luca howled and headbutted Marcus, splitting his eyebrow. They crashed into a stack of heavy chains. Marcus grabbed a length and swung it like a whip. Luca ducked, but the chain wrapped around a pipe behind him. Marcus yanked, tearing the pipe loose in a spray of rust and scale. Luca snatched up the pipe and swung it baseball style at Marcus's head. Marcus rolled under the strike. The pipe smashed into a crate, sending splinters flying. Coming up inside Luca's guard, Marcus drove his elbow into the enforcer's already broken nose. Blood sprayed. Luca stumbled back, cursing in Italian. He spat a tooth onto the wet boards. His eyes were wild now, the look of a man who realized he might not walk away. "Your father died first," Luca sneered, circling. "We made her watch. Enzo wanted it that way." Marcus's vision went red. He charged, but Luca was ready. They grappled at the pier's edge, trading savage blows. Marcus took a knee to the ribs. He answered with a palm strike that crushed Luca's windpipe. Gasping, Luca swung the pipe again. Marcus caught it and twisted, using Luca's momentum to slam him face first into a steel support beam. The impact left a crimson smear. Before Luca could recover, Marcus kicked his legs out from under him. They crashed through a rusted grate covering a loading platform. Metal screamed as they fell. Marcus landed on top, driving his knee into Luca's chest. The enforcer's breath left him in a whoosh. "The ledger," Marcus growled, pinning Luca's arms with his knees. "Where is it?" Luca tried to buck him off, but Marcus slammed his head against the platform. "Talk!" Go to hell, Luca spat blood. Enzo will kill me anyway. Marcus pressed his forearm across Luca's throat. Death's coming either way. Quick or slow. Your choice. The pressure increased. Luca's eyes bulged. Finally, he tapped Marcus's arm frantically. Marcus eased up just enough to let him speak. Enzo, Luca wheezed. He ordered it personally. Your mother. She had proof of everything. Property theft, bribes, murders. The ledger would have exposed his whole operation. Where is it now? Split up, different locations. Insurance. Luca coughed wetly. Enzo keeps the main copy in his office safe. The combination. It's in my phone. Marcus pulled out his phone. You're going to record every word you just said. Names, dates, locations, all of it. Luca's laugh was bitter. Then you'll hand me to the cops? I'm dead either way. No, you'll face justice. Real justice. Marcus pressed the record button. Start talking. Luca's confession poured out. Dates, names, accounts. How Enzo had ordered the Hales killed. How Detective Pike had covered it up. The whole corrupt system laid bare in a broken man's words. When it was done, Marcus zip-tied Luca's hands. Tanya will make sure. Freeze! Police! Detective Pike's voice cut through the dawn like a knife. He stood at the pier's edge, pistol aimed steadily at Marcus. Two uniformed officers flanked him, weapons drawn. Back away from him, Marcus, Pike ordered. This ends now. Marcus raised his hands slowly. It's over, Pike. We have his confession. No. Pike's smile was cold. What we have is a vigilante who murdered Luca Marconi in a revenge killing. Isn't that right, officers? The uniformed cops nodded mechanically. Pike's men. The detective's gun shifted slightly. The shot cracked across the water. Luca's body jerked once and went still, a red hole in his temple. Before Marcus could move, Pike fired again, the bullet whining past his ear. Officer down, Pike shouted into his radio. Suspect is armed and dangerous. Shots fired. Marcus dove as more bullets chewed up the platform. He rolled behind a container, mind racing. Pike had played him perfectly. Now he'd be wanted for Luca's murder. All units converge, Pike's voice carried clearly. Suspect heading south along the river. Shoot to kill. He's cop killer now. Marcus sprinted through the maze of containers, sirens wailing in the distance. He reached his truck just as the first patrol cars screamed into the depot. Tires squealed as he accelerated away, blood dripping from his various wounds. Red and blue lights filled his rearview mirror. Marcus weaved through pre-dawn traffic, the confession recording burning a hole in his pocket. He had to survive. Had to get the truth to Tanya. The sirens grew closer. Marcus spotted a storm drain tunnel ahead. He killed his lights and turned sharply, tires skidding on wet concrete. The truck disappeared into the darkness. Inside the drain, water dripped steadily. Marcus slumped against the wheel, chest heaving. Blood trickled down his face. Mom, Dad, he whispered into the darkness. I'm sorry. Above, sirens Dopplered past as the first rays of dawn painted the eastern sky. The morning light crept through dusty windows, painting stark shadows across Marcus's safe house floor. He sat slumped in a metal folding chair, pressing a blood-soaked cloth against his eyebrow. His muscles ached from the fight at the pier. The burner TV in the corner droned with breaking news. Suspected in the murder of organized crime figure Luca Marconi. Police consider Marcus Hale armed and extremely dangerous. A soft knock at the door made him tense. 3 quick taps, then 2 slow. Tanya's signal. Marcus pressed his pistol close as he checked the peephole, then quickly let her inside. My God, Marcus! Tanya's eyes widened at his condition. She carried a first aid kit and fresh clothes. "You look terrible." "I've had worse." He winced as she began cleaning his wounds. The antiseptic stung. "They're calling you a cop killer," she said quietly, dabbing at his eyebrow. "Pike's press conference painted you as a vigilante who executed Luca in cold blood." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Pike shot him. Killed his own informant to cover their tracks." "I believe you." Tanya's hands were gentle but firm as she applied butterfly bandages. "But we need to be smart about this. I have contacts at the Justice Department. With Luca's confession and the ledger evidence, by the time the feds move, Enzo will be gone." Marcus stood, ignoring the protest of his bruised ribs. He's already planning his escape. Tonight's meeting with the city officials is his last play. Tanya followed him to the safe house's makeshift command center, a card table covered in maps and surveillance photos. "How do you know about the meeting?" Marcus tapped his laptop screen. "Ghost intercepted encrypted messages before—" He paused. "Before Pike shot him. The development contracts get signed tonight. Once that's done, Enzo liquidates everything and disappears. Then let me expose him first." Tanya pulled out her phone, showing him email drafts. "I have 3 reporters ready to break the story. The ledger documents prove everything. The bribes, the murders, Pike's involvement. We can bring him down legally. And how many people die while we wait for the system to work?" Marcus checked his weapons with mechanical precision. "How many more families get destroyed?" "This isn't just about revenge anymore," Tanya insisted. "Your parents fought corruption with the truth, not violence. They believed in justice. And look where that got them." The words exploded from Marcus before he could stop them. The silence that followed was deafening. Tanya touched his arm gently. "They also believed in you. In doing what's right, not just what's expedient." Marcus's shoulders sagged. He looked at the photo of his parents from the fundraiser, taken just days ago. Their smiles haunted him. "I have to finish this," he said quietly. "My way. Tonight." Tanya worked at her laptop, while Marcus prepared his gear. She uploaded encrypted files to secure servers, establishing dead man switches that would release everything if anything happened to either of them. The afternoon light was fading when Marcus finally armed himself. Fresh magazines, backup pieces, comm gear. He moved like a man who'd done this 1,000 times before. "The press contacts are ready," Tanya said. "Once I confirm the story, it goes live within hours. The whole house of cards will collapse." Marcus nodded. "If Enzo escapes, at least his empire burns." He checked his watch. "The meeting's at 9, warehouse district, near the old sugar plant." "Marcus?" Tanya's voice cracked slightly. "There's still time to do this differently." He turned to her, seeing not just an ally, but a friend who'd stood by him through everything, who'd fought for justice in her own way, just as fiercely as he had. "If I don't come back," he said softly, kissing her forehead, "make sure the world knows. Make sure they know what my parents died for." Tanya hugged him tightly. "Be careful. Pike will have the whole force looking for you." "Good." Marcus's smile was grim. "Keeps them busy while I handle Enzo." He walked to his truck, each step measured and purposeful. The weight of his gear felt familiar, almost comfortable. This was what he'd trained for all those years in Delta, bringing justice to those who thought themselves above it. The city skyline burned orange and crimson as the sun set. Marcus drove steadily toward the docks, his mind clear and focused. The radio crackled with police chatter, units still searching, still hunting. Let them chase shadows. He had only one target now. Traffic thinned as he entered the warehouse district. Abandoned buildings loomed like ancient sentinels. Somewhere ahead, Enzo waited with his corrupt officials, thinking himself untouchable. Marcus checked his weapons one final time. The sky darkened to deep red, then purple. Night was falling over Atlanta like a shroud. Marcus parked in a shadowed alley and began his final preparations. Everything that followed would happen in darkness. This was his element now. This was where justice would finally be served. Marcus crouched over the trunk of his SUV, methodically checking each weapon. The parking garage's dim fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across the array of tactical gear. Ghost sat nearby on an ammunition crate, wrapping fresh gauze around his thigh wound. "You don't have to do this," Marcus said, not looking up from his work. "That leg needs rest." Ghost snorted. "No way I'm sitting this out." He tested his weight on the injured leg. "Besides, someone's got to watch your six." Sarge emerged from the shadows, carrying blueprints of Enzo's villa. He spread them across the hood of the SUV, weighing down the corners with magazines. Security details just came in. 4 rotating patrol teams, motion sensors on the perimeter, and private military contractors on the grounds. Marcus traced potential entry points with his finger. Contractors means they're disciplined. No random spray and pray when things go bad. They'll move tactically, protect their principal. "Just like old times," Ghost said, limping over to study the plans. "Remember Baghdad? That arms dealer's compound? This time we're not leaving anyone alive to surrender," Marcus replied coldly. Tanya's footsteps echoed through the garage as she approached, laptop tucked under her arm. Press contacts are set. Multiple outlets, automated drops, redundant servers. She opened the computer, showing Marcus the schedule. Everything goes live at dawn. The ledger, Pike's involvement, witness statements, all of it. Marcus nodded. "Good. By then, it won't matter if Enzo's people try to suppress it." He pulled a small video camera from his gear bag. "I need to record something first." The others gave him space as he set up the camera on a crate. Marcus sat down, adjusted the frame, and took a deep breath. The red light blinked on. "My name is Marcus Hale. If you're seeing this, I'm probably dead." His voice was steady, controlled. 3 nights ago, my parents, Evelyn and Walter Hale, were murdered on orders from Enzo Moretti. They died protecting evidence of his crimes. Money laundering, bribery of city officials, and murder. He detailed everything: the kidnapping, Pike's betrayal, Luca's death. Each word precise, leaving no room for manipulation of the truth. What I'm about to do isn't about revenge. It's about justice. About finishing what my parents started. Marcus paused, memory washing over him. He was 12 again, sitting in their kitchen after a schoolyard fight. His mother's gentle hands cleaning his scraped knuckles. "Fighting isn't always wrong, Marcus," she'd said softly. "But real courage isn't in what you do in the moment. It's in what you leave behind. The truth you protect, the people you defend. That's what matters." The memory faded. Marcus looked directly into the camera. "Everything I've done, everything that follows, is documented and verified. The evidence is with trusted sources. Enzo Moretti and his entire operation end tonight. The truth my parents died protecting will survive." He stopped the recording. Tanya took the memory card, adding it to her dead man's switch files. "Marcus," she started. "Don't," he cut her off gently. "We've been through this." She nodded, eyes glistening. "Just come back alive. There's been enough martyrs." Ghost and Sarge loaded the last of the gear. Breaching charges, night vision, medical supplies. Their movements were practiced, efficient. They'd done this dance countless times in countless war zones. Marcus pulled on his tactical vest, checking the ceramic plates. Each magazine found its designated pouch, each flashbang its proper place. The weight felt right, familiar. This was the soldier he'd tried to leave behind, now needed one last time. Comms check. Sarge said, distributing encrypted radios. They cycled through channels, confirming clear signals. Ghost tested his leg again, satisfied with the mobility. Remember, Enzo's men will have thermal imaging. We'll need to move fast once we breach. Time check, Marcus announced. 2300 hours. Enzo's meeting starts in 30 minutes. We move in 20. They gathered around the blueprints one final time. Marcus traced their approach routes, contingency plans, rally points. Every detail had to be perfect. They couldn't afford mistakes. This is for Walter and Evelyn, Sarge said quietly. The others nodded. Marcus closed his eyes briefly, centering himself. When he opened them, his gaze was steel. Mount up. They climbed into two armored SUVs, Ghost and Sarge in one, Marcus alone in the lead vehicle. The engines rumbled to life, echoing off concrete walls. Tanya stood in the garage entrance, silhouetted by streetlights. She raised her hand in farewell as they pulled out into the night. The city streets were nearly empty, making it easy to maintain distance between vehicles. Marcus drove mechanically, muscle memory guiding him while his mind ran through scenarios, angles of attack, potential complications. Traffic cameras caught brief glimpses of the SUVs moving through intersections. By morning, those images would be part of the evidence package. One way or another, everything would be exposed. They turned onto the access road leading to Enzo's private compound. Dense trees lined both sides, their branches casting shifting patterns in the moonlight. Ahead, security lights marked their target, like a beacon. Marcus checked his watch. 7 minutes until they'd breached the perimeter. In his mirrors, he saw Ghost and Sarge's headlights, steady and unwavering. The weight of his weapon pressed against his side, cold and certain. Moonlight glinted off gun barrels and tactical gear as they made their final preparations. The night seemed to hold its breath, waiting. The convoy killed their headlights half a mile from Enzo's estate. Marcus guided his SUV using night vision, the green-tinted world ahead showing armed guards patrolling the perimeter fence. He keyed his radio. "Execute," Ghost's voice crackled back. "Copy. Hitting the power. Now!" The estate's lights died in sections, security systems failing as their backup generators mysteriously malfunctioned. Through his scope, Marcus watched confusion spread among the guards. They raised their weapons, scanning the darkness. "Moving to Point Alpha," Marcus whispered. He slipped from his vehicle, boots silent on wet grass. The guard tower ahead held two men, both focused outward. Marcus raised his suppressed rifle and squeezed the trigger twice. The guards dropped without sound. "Tower clear. Sarge? Electronic perimeter disabled. You've got 4 minutes before their protocols kick in." Marcus moved like a shadow along the fence line. 3 more guards approached, speaking rapidly into radios. He waited until they clustered together, then fired. Precise shots, no wasted rounds. They crumpled mid-stride. Ghost's voice came urgent across comms. "Vehicle approaching the main gate. Looks like Pike's car." "Let him through," Marcus ordered. "We want him inside for this." The gate opened automatically, Sarge's handiwork with the security system. Pike's sedan rolled through, the detective unaware he was being watched through multiple scopes. Marcus reached the eastern wall. Beginning breach. Ghost, sweep west. "Sarge, maintain overwatch." He planted shaped charges at structural weak points. The small explosions were barely louder than handclaps, but they opened clean holes in the perimeter wall. Marcus slipped through, weapon raised. The garden beyond held more guards, private military contractors in tactical gear. They moved with professional discipline, securing sectors. Marcus counted 8, all with thermal imaging. "Taking out thermals," Ghost radioed. His first shot shattered a guard's night vision goggles. The others spun toward the sound, exposing themselves. Marcus and Ghost fired simultaneously. 4 dropped before the others could respond. Return fire crackled through the garden. Bullets thudded into trees and stone as Marcus rolled between cover. He caught movement to his left, a contractor trying to flank. 2 shots to the chest dropped him. Internal cameras accessed, Sarge reported. Streaming to Tanya now. She's patching it to media servers. Marcus worked his way toward the main house. More guards emerged from side doors, but they were silhouetted against interior lights. Easy targets. His suppressed rifle coughed steadily, each shot finding its mark. "Contact right!" Ghost shouted. Gunfire erupted from the western approach. Marcus heard Ghost grunt in pain. "Took one in the arm. I'm good. Fall back to—" "No time." Ghost cut him off. "Keep moving. I've got this sector." Marcus reached the house's service entrance. The door was reinforced steel, but the hinges weren't. 3 precise shots dropped it inward. He stepped over the fallen door into a kitchen. 2 bodyguards rushed in, submachine guns raised. Marcus shot the first through the throat. The second got off a burst that shattered cabinet doors before Marcus's return fire caught him in the face. "Pike's heading upstairs," Sarge called out. "Looks like he's warning Enzo." "Good." Marcus reloaded smoothly. "Let them bunch up." He moved through the house with practiced efficiency. Every room was cleared methodically. Corners checked, angles covered, no space left unchecked. Bodies marked his progress. A guard came around a corner with a shotgun. Marcus shot him twice in the chest, then caught movement behind him. Another contractor raising a rifle. Marcus threw himself sideways as bullets chewed up the wallpaper. He rolled, came up firing. The contractor staggered, but stayed up until Marcus put a 3rd round through his eye. 15 targets eliminated, Marcus reported. "Status?" "West side secured," Ghost said, breathing heavy. "Arms are through and through, still functional. External cameras show no reinforcements incoming," Sarge added. "Tanya confirms the feed is live. Major networks picking it up." Marcus climbed the main stairs, stepping over 2 more guards he'd dropped. Blood stained the expensive carpet. Ahead, he heard Pike's voice, urgent and afraid. "They're inside! We need to—" A gunshot cut him off. Marcus moved faster. The upper floor held Enzo's private offices. Marcus cleared 2 antechambers, finding 3 more dead guards. Pike had been busy eliminating witnesses. "Approaching final position," Marcus radioed. "Ghost, seal the east exit. Sarge, maintain overwatch on potential escape routes." He rounded the last corner. A heavy wooden door stood closed ahead. Enzo's office. 2 more bodies lay outside it, execution wounds in their heads. Pike's handiwork, eliminating loose ends. Marcus checked his magazine. Full. He rolled his shoulders, loosening combat-tightened muscles. Through the door, he heard Pike and Enzo arguing. "You promised this couldn't happen," Enzo shouted. "You said he was handled." "Shut up and let me think," Pike snapped back. "We still have options." Marcus stood before the door, weapon ready. Everything had led to this moment. His parents' murder, the corruption, the betrayals. Behind this door waited the men responsible for all of it. He took a breath. This ends now. Marcus kicked through the door with explosive force, wood splintering around the reinforced hinges. The heavy panel crashed inward as he rolled through the opening, weapons sweeping the room. Rich mahogany paneling lined the walls, city lights twinkling through floor-to-ceiling windows behind an enormous desk. Enzo Moretti stood calmly behind it, hands clasped before him like a CEO at a board meeting. Detective Pike flanked him, service weapon already drawn, but held loose at his side. Neither man showed surprise at the intrusion. "Dramatic entrance," Enzo said, his cultured voice carrying only mild interest. "Though I expected nothing less from a man of your background." He gestured at the destruction around them. "All this violence, and for what? You can't kill the system, Mr. Hale." Cut off one head. 2 more grow back. Marcus rose slowly, keeping his rifle trained on Pike. I'm not here to kill the system. He reached into his tactical vest with his free hand, retrieving a small USB drive. The metallic cylinder caught the dim light as he tossed it onto Enzo's desk. I'm here to expose it. Enzo's eyes narrowed at the device. Before he could respond, Marcus pressed a button on his radio. The massive display screens lining the office walls suddenly flickered to life. The ledger's contents filled each monitor. Account numbers, transfer records, property deals, all tied to Moretti Holdings. Alongside the damning financial data, Luca's recorded confession played in gruesome detail. You forced my parents to watch while you murdered them, Marcus said, his voice deadly calm. Now, the world's going to watch your empire crumble. Pike's knuckles whitened on his gun grip. This changes nothing. Your word against... A new window popped up on the screens. Live news coverage. Pike's own face stared back at him, alongside headlines about police corruption and organized crime. Bank records showed years of payoffs. His personnel file, his connection to multiple unsolved murders. Everything. Tanya says hello, Marcus added. She's been very busy tonight. The color drained from Pike's face as he realized the scope of his exposure. His weapon wavered, uncertainty replacing his professional mask. Everything he'd built, all his careful manipulation of the system, stripped bare on national television. Enzo's calm finally cracked. With surprising speed for his age, he lunged toward his desk drawer. Marcus was already moving as Enzo's hand emerged with a chrome-plated pistol. The rifle barked once, knocking the gun away in a spray of blood and splintered wood. But Enzo was committed now. He vaulted the desk with unexpected agility, ramming his shoulder into Marcus's chest. They crashed together into a bookshelf, leather-bound volumes raining down around them. Marcus's rifle clattered away as they grappled. Enzo fought with the desperate strength of a cornered animal. He drove a knee into Marcus's ribs, then whipped out a hidden blade that gleamed in the artificial light. Marcus barely twisted away as it slashed past his throat. The second strike caught him in the shoulder, hot pain blossoming as steel parted flesh. Pike stood frozen, gun half raised, unable to get a clear shot as the 2 men struggled. His hesitation proved costly. Ghost's voice crackled through Marcus's radio. Target acquired. Marcus drove his forehead into Enzo's nose, creating space. Blood sprayed between them as Enzo staggered back. Marcus seized the mobster's knife arm and twisted, bones cracking. The blade dropped. Before Enzo could recover, Marcus unleashed a savage combination. Knee to solar plexus, elbow to temple, then a powerful throw that sent Enzo crashing through his precious glass coffee table. Pike finally made his decision. He turned to flee and found himself staring down the barrels of Ghost's and Sarge's weapons in the doorway. His gun clattered to the floor as he raised his hands. Enzo tried to rise from the glittering wreckage, glass crunching under his expensive shoes. Marcus was on him instantly. One hand locked around Enzo's throat, driving him back against the window. The city sparkled far below as Marcus applied pressure. My parents believed in justice, Marcus growled, in doing things the right way. Their way. His grip tightened as Enzo clawed weakly at his arm. Lucky for you, I made a promise to honor that belief. He released just enough pressure to prevent unconsciousness. Enzo sagged, gasping, as Marcus roughly cuffed his hands behind his back. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. FBI strike team incoming, Sarge reported from his position. Agent Reeves is leading them personally. They've been watching the whole feed. Marcus yanked Enzo to his feet, ignoring the burning pain in his shoulder. Red and blue lights began reflecting off the windows as federal vehicles swarmed the estate's grounds. Through the shattered door, He could hear boots thundering up the stairs. "It's over," Marcus said, shoving Enzo toward the arriving agents. The system just killed itself. Agent Reeves burst in with her tactical team, weapon raised. She took in the scene, the playing confession, the exposed ledger, the two cuffed men. Her sharp eyes noted Marcus's wounds, the destruction, the price of justice. She nodded once, professionally. "We'll take it from here, Mr. Hale." Marcus stepped back as federal agents secured Enzo and Pike. Dawn's first rays began creeping through the broken windows, painting the chaos in soft golden light. His shoulder throbbed with each heartbeat, blood soaking his tactical vest. Bodies and brass casings littered the halls behind him. The night's violence was written in every direction. Moving stiffly, he turned toward the door. Sirens filled the morning air as he limped into the hallway, leaving the federal agents to process his handiwork. One battle won, but the war for his parents' legacy was just beginning. Marcus emerged from Enzo's villa into the harsh morning light, squinting as camera flashes erupted from behind police barriers. News vans lined the circular driveway, their satellite dishes reaching toward the brightening sky. The media frenzy had already begun. Federal agents led Enzo Moretti and Detective Pike through the mansion's grand entrance, both men cuffed and surrounded by tactical teams. Enzo's perfectly tailored suit was torn and bloodied, his usual composed demeanor shattered. Pike kept his head down, shame written in every step as his fellow officers watched their former colleagues disgrace. Reporters shouted questions, microphones thrust forward like spears. "Mr. Moretti, how long have you been bribing city officials?" "Detective Pike, what was your role in the Hale murders? Did you order the execution of Walter and Evelyn Hale?" The questions became a deafening roar. Enzo's face twisted with rage as cameras captured his downfall. Pike seemed to shrink with each flash, his police career ending in public humiliation. They were marched toward separate transport vehicles, their synchronized perp walk broadcast live across Atlanta. Through the chaos, Marcus spotted Tanya at the police cordon. She waved him over, her professional demeanor barely containing her excitement. As he approached, she pulled a thick manila envelope from her briefcase. "Hot off the federal printer," she said, handing him the document. "Arrest warrants for 3 city council members, 2 judges, and the deputy mayor, all tied to Enzo's real estate schemes." Her smile was fierce. "You didn't just avenge your parents, you cleaned a city." Marcus thumbed through the warrants, recognizing names he'd seen in his parents' ledger. "The evidence held up? Better than we hoped. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit says your parents documented everything perfectly. Classic Walter and Evelyn. They fought with paperwork instead of bullets." She squeezed his arm. "Though sometimes you need both." News choppers circled overhead as more arrests began across Atlanta. Marcus watched the coordinated takedown through text updates from Agent Reeves. Corrupt officials led from City Hall, judges escorted from courtrooms, years of systematic corruption dragged into the light. His phone buzzed with breaking news alerts. "Breaking, real estate mogul Enzo Moretti, arrested in mass corruption sweep. Police detective among dozens charged in Atlanta criminal enterprise. Murdered activists' evidence exposes citywide corruption ring." Tanya scrolled through her own phone. "The Hale Community Center property has already been returned to the trust. The City Council's emergency session voted to rename it the Walter and Evelyn Hale Memorial Center." She looked up at Marcus. "Your parents' legacy is secure." Marcus nodded, emotion threatening to crack his composure. "I need to check on Ghost." The hospital was quieter than the chaos outside, though news played silently on waiting room TVs. Marcus found Ghost in a private room, his arm professionally bandaged, looking annoyed at the mandatory observation. "There's my one-man army," Ghost said, grinning. You look worse than me." Marcus dropped into the chair beside the bed, his own wounds starting to announce themselves now that the adrenaline had faded. "Retirement's not what it used to be. Speaking of retirement," Ghost gestured at the TV where Enzo's arrest played on repeat, "I'd say we earned it this time. No more midnight raids, no more tactical gear. Just fishing and bad golf." "You hate fishing?" "I'll learn. Better than getting shot at." Ghost's expression softened. "Your parents would be proud, Marcus. Not just of taking down Enzo, of doing it the right way. Justice instead of pure revenge." Marcus thought of the ledger, his parents' meticulous documentation. They'd fought corruption with truth, building a case that would outlast violence. He'd simply added the force needed to bring that truth into the light. By late afternoon, Marcus stood alone in Oakland Cemetery. The grass was freshly cut, fall leaves scattered across marble headstones. He knelt between his parents' graves, carefully placing their wedding photo in a weatherproof frame between the markers. The photo captured them in their youth, Walter in his best suit, Evelyn radiant in white, both beaming with the certainty of their shared future. They'd built that future stone by stone: the business, the community center, the fight against corruption. Even their deaths had served their lifelong mission of justice. Marcus traced their names carved in granite. The morning's news still echoed in his mind. Indictments, confessions, a corrupt system crumbling under the weight of evidence. His parents' final gift to Atlanta was the truth they'd died protecting. "You can rest now," he whispered. The autumn breeze stirred the leaves around him, carrying distant city sounds, sirens, traffic, life continuing. But here, in this quiet corner of Oakland Cemetery, peace had finally come. His parents' killers would face justice, their work would continue, and their names would mean something to future generations. 2 weeks after Enzo's arrest, Atlanta basked in late autumn warmth. The Hale Community Center stood transformed, its red brick facade scrubbed clean, new windows gleaming in the morning light. A crowd gathered on the freshly paved parking lot where basketball courts had been repainted in vibrant colors. Children darted between adults' legs, their excitement palpable. Some dribbled basketballs, testing the smooth concrete, while others pressed close to the building's entrance, where a cloth-covered plaque waited for its unveiling. The neighborhood had turned out in force, elderly residents in their Sunday best, young families with strollers, teenagers trying to look unimpressed, but failing. Marcus leaned against an oak tree at the edge of the crowd, watching. He wore civilian clothes now, pressed khakis and a blue button-down that Tanya had insisted on. The tactical gear and weapons were locked away, perhaps for good. His wounds from the villa raid had mostly healed, though his shoulder still ached when the weather changed. Tanya approached through the crowd, clipboard in hand, looking professional in a navy suit. "Ready for this?" she asked, stopping beside him. "They're the ones who should be here," Marcus said quietly. "They are." Tanya gestured to the building, to the people gathering. "Look around. Everything here exists because of them." She was right. The community center had been his parents' heart. The basketball courts where Walter taught kids to play, the computer lab where Evelyn tutored students, the meeting rooms where they'd planned their stand against corruption. Even after their deaths, their influence rippled outward. The ceremony began with the mayor, newly appointed after the corruption sweep, welcoming everyone. He spoke about healing, about communities standing together against injustice. Marcus barely heard him, focused instead on the faces in the crowd. He recognized many from the original fundraiser gala, the night before everything changed. They'd lost their leaders, but found their voice. Tanya took the podium next, her presence commanding attention. "Today, "We honor two people who gave everything for this community," she began. Evelyn and Walter Hale believed in justice, not just in courtrooms, but in everyday lives. They believed in education, in opportunity, in standing up to those who would tear down what others built. Her voice carried across the hushed crowd. They left us their greatest weapon, the truth. When corruption threatened this neighborhood, they didn't just fight back. They documented everything. They built a case that even their deaths couldn't silence. That's real courage. That's real sacrifice. Marcus watched children pause their play to listen, basketballs tucked under arms. These were the ones his parents had fought for, the next generation who would grow up knowing that justice was possible, that truth could defeat power. The Hales proved that one couple, armed with nothing but conviction and evidence, could change a city, Tanya continued. Their community center stands not just as a memorial, but as a promise that light will always overcome darkness, that truth will always surface, that good people working together can move mountains. She gestured to the covered plaque. So, today, we rededicate this center not just to their memory, but to their mission. Every child who learns here, every family who finds support here, every victory for justice that starts here, that's their legacy, living on. Two young students stepped forward to pull the cloth away. The bronze plaque caught the sunlight. In memory of Evelyn and Walter Hale, champions of justice. Truth stands when power falls. Applause rippled through the crowd. Someone started singing, "We Shall Overcome," and others joined in, the hymn swelling in the morning air. Marcus felt his throat tighten. After the ceremony, as people filtered inside for refreshments, the head of the center's board approached Marcus. "We'd like to offer you a position," she said. "Head of security. This place will need protection." Marcus shook his head, smiling slightly. "This time, they're safe because the truth is out. The best security isn't guards. It's transparency. It's community. That's what my parents understood." The afternoon stretched on, the celebration becoming more relaxed. Children returned to their basketball games. Families spread picnic blankets on the grass. The community center hummed with life, just as his parents had always wanted it. Eventually, the crowd thinned. Marcus found himself alone on the front steps, watching the sun angle toward evening. A pickup game was underway on the courts, shouts and laughter carrying across the parking lot. Two young girls practiced their dribbling nearby, focusing intently on the rhythm. The sound of children playing. It had been his mother's favorite thing about the center. "That's the sound of hope," she'd always said. Now, sitting in the warm sunlight, Marcus finally understood. This was what his parents had built their lives around. Not buildings or programs, but moments like these. Simple joy. Future possibility. He smiled, really smiled, for the first time since their deaths. Peace settled over him like the afternoon light. They tried to bury their names, but all they did was plant their legacy. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day!